What's up, everybody? Curtis Wilkerson here with Inside Arkansas and the Pod at the Palace. We got a couple days between games before Arkansas takes the floor again to face Little Rock Friday night. But wanted to take a little bit of time today and dive into the curious case of Johnell Davis, which has been interesting, I think, to say the least. Now, this is it's not a Nelly Davis bashing session or anything like that, but I think anybody who's watched Arkansas so far would probably agree that something just ain't quite right. It's not quite clicking just yet on that front. And I also think anyone who follows Arkansas basketball would agree that getting Johnell Davis going is probably like priority 1A, like right alongside getting healthy as a team if Arkansas is going to kind of reach its ceiling this year, right? And so what I think we're going to do is maybe tackle this from two different angles, one being just his production early on, and then two being more or less just his comfort and fit within the system. Let's start with production because, right now, Johnell Davis is averaging 9.5 points per game. That's roughly half of what he averaged at Florida Atlantic last season. And I get it, like he's transferring from the AAC up to the SEC. So you would expect maybe a little bit of a drop off there. But everything about his track record, what he's done against high level competition, his efficiency, all that suggested that his scoring would be what would really, really translate for him. And we just haven't quite seen that so far. And I understand injury is a factor here as well, right? I mean, we get it. Was missed some time in the preseason, had a cast brace on. He's been out of that thing for about a month now, a little over a month. He's got 6 games under his belt. And we're not seeing maybe the trajectory of improvement that we thought we would. Is that thing still bothering him? Could be. And in fact, I think as we look at some of these things, that might actually explain some of the issues there. But I think there's a little bit more to it than that. But to just go back to his efficiency, I mean, it's been off the charts. Like the elite of the elite in basketball, they try to get in that 50, 40, 90 club, right? The 50% from the field, 40% from three, 90% from the free throw line. Well, last year at FAU, Johnell Davis was damn near there. Okay. He was 48, 41, 86, right? So very, very close, super efficient. And I'll pull up his stats here now this year. And I understand it's a small sample size, but the drop off is pretty staggering. I mean, 43% from the field. So that's about a 5% drop off there. Down to 25% from three. That's obviously not where you want to be. 100% from the free throw line, only 4 free throw attempts. This is all even lower if you factor in the exhibition games, which I understand we can't do that, but we're talking about the sample size based on what we've seen here. So what's going on with the efficiency for a guy who's been largely very efficient, but hasn't been so far? Some interesting stuff from Coach Cal after the Pacific game on what might be going on there.
Well, he had 6 rebounds and 2 for 3. He's got to be our sniper. Okay. He's got to be that. He's physically tough. He got 6 rebounds. What I did with I don't like to mess with guys' shots, not in season. I may say, shoot it straight. I don't care. You elbow me out. I don't care. Just shoot it straight. Make sure the ball goes straight. I may do that. With Nelly, as I watched, I didn't like his arc. So when you were trying to make it, a lot of times you'll shoot it right at that rim because you're just trying to make a shot. You can't shoot. You got to have arc. That Noah machine we have, when he shoots, I'm looking at the machine on there. And I'm telling him, 44, great. 41, get the arc up. 45, 44, great. 45, 44. When he shoots fouls, they're all at 45. But when he's shooting, sometimes they're at 41. His arc's not high enough. That's all I've been telling him. You get the arc there, I'm not worried about it. You're going to make 60%, 50%.
Okay, I think I agree with that, actually. So the shot's coming out a little bit flat right now, working on the arc. Honestly, that adds up, right? I mean, that makes sense. If you're thinking about a guy who's coming off of a wrist hand injury, well, what does that mean? He was immobilized for a while. So he's probably still working or has been working on the strength in that wrist, the range of motion in that wrist, all things that factor into your shooting mechanics, and the arc that's going to be on your shot and the power that you have to put behind it. Okay, fair enough. I think that will come. Personally, I'm not concerned about that. I thought that was a good explanation in terms of what might be going on there with the shooting. Now, what does have my attention, though, is his role in the offense and the level to which he's just kind of deferring to the other guards out there. And so I got to say, in fairness to guys like Matt Norlander, even Jeff Goodman, who questioned in the offseason, how would Johnell Davis fit in a backcourt with DJ Wagner, Boogie Flam, whatever? This is probably what they're talking about. And this does not mean failed experiment. Hell, they scored 91 points the other night and made 9 threes and did a lot of really good things. But it's going to take a little bit of time for everybody to settle in and kind of establish their roles. But I think this is kind of what they were talking about. Against Pacific, this is interesting to me. Johnell Davis played 32 minutes and he took 5 shots in the game. Here's the thing. 7 players played in this game for Arkansas. The only person who took fewer shots than Nelly was Carter Knox, who broke his damn finger in the first half, right? That simply should never happen. There should never be another game where Johnell Davis plays significant minutes and he's 6th on the team in shot attempts. It's baffling to me. It really is. The last time he took 5 or fewer shots in a game was November 14th, 2023. So over a year ago against Eastern Michigan. He played 19 minutes in that game. The season prior, it did not happen a single time in which he played double-digit minutes. We're not talking the 32 that he played the other night. Like if he played 10 minutes or more, he got 5 or more shots up. Like that's the type of volume that you typically see from him. So we're 3 games in a row now for Nelly Davis where he has scored, he hasn't reached double figures in the scoring column. I'm just going to pull up his game logs here and see if I can find another stretch where he's gone 3 games in a row without reaching double figures. It did not happen last season. He might not have had 3 games all last year, period, where he didn't score in double figures. Let's go back to 2022-23. I'm scrolling. There's a back-to-back. Do we have 3 in a row somewhere? Yeah, okay. So it was 2 seasons ago at the beginning of the year. He had a 4-game stretch where he was held to single digits. So it's been a while. I mean, this is a guy who he scores it, right? So what's going on there? Like how many times are we looking up right now and seeing Johnell Davis start a possession in the left corner in the half-court offense and never leave? It's way too many. How often is the offense initiated opposite of Davis towards DJ Wagner? And I'm fine with DJ Wagner getting his touches, but I think it's far too often that that's happening for a team that's currently not getting consistent reversals to where they can get through their action enough to where Davis gets a touch. I mean, it'll be 4, 5, 6 possessions in a row in the half-court offense where he's not even getting a touch. I'm not even talking about a shot. That's interesting to me. And, you know, while I appreciate him just not forcing the issue necessarily too much, it is a little bit baffling to me how quickly he looks to get rid of it sometimes when he does get a touch. Like he'll get that thing in the corner. Oh, thanks. Pass it right back out. Like not even trying to make a basketball move. Just reverse that thing, get it out of my hands. That's happening a lot lately, and I wonder why. Is it a comfort thing in the system? Is it a discomfort thing physically? Like, well, you know, what's going on here? How often is Johnell initiating the offense himself? The answer is none, nada, 0. Not even during a 4-minute stretch to end the first half against Pacific the other night when Boogie came out with foul trouble. It was DJ Wagner who was on the ball, and hey, he did a really good job. I think he had 5 assists and 0 turnovers again. Looked really good there, but it's you wonder why he's not getting any looks there on the ball. A guy who kind of factored into being a go-to player for you, someone who's been a closer at a very, very high level, and just not spending any time on the ball. At FAU, and let's make sure we understand this, like FAU was a team that made a Final Four and then followed up with another NCAA tournament appearance, a ton of wins with a roster full of dudes who eat and are at high majors now, right? I mean, like Elijah Martin, his backcourt mate is at Florida, and he's balling for him in the SEC right now. Vlad Golden, their big man, followed Dusty May. He's at Michigan now. And so like this was a really, really good team that had some talented players. Still yet, last season at FAU, Davis earned national rankings at KenPom, which represents roughly like the top 10% of all college basketball players, Division I, in percentage of possessions used and percentage of shots taken. So that means he had the ball in his hands and he was taking a good amount of the shots, right? And again, there's some drop-offs, I think, to be expected, but it's really kind of fallen off the cliff here. You can take a look at it, and you can see my forehead peeking over the top of this graphic, but that's okay. If you look at it, he goes from 27.5%, and you can see the ranking underneath that. That was really high nationally, to just 17.6. So 10% drop off in the number of possessions that he's being used. The percentage of his team shots that he's getting up went from 27%. That's down to 20.2%. Again, you expect a little bit of drop off, but I feel like there's got to be maybe some middle ground there. Those numbers right now, they rank 4th on the team in both categories. I don't think that's really what you expected when Johnell Davis came to Arkansas as the number 1 transfer in the country. When you pull up Arkansas's team page at KenPom right now, you'll see Boogie, Thero, and Z are labeled as quote major contributors on the roster based on their usage rate. And then you got Johnell Davis, who's right beside Billy Richmond as a role player. Folks, Johnell Davis cannot be a role player on this roster if this team is going to meet its expectations. That's just not going to be a thing. So they got to figure it out. In my opinion, and for whatever that's worth, I think Davis needs to be featured more. They need to run more action for him, towards him, and they need to make a concerted effort to put him on the ball more. Sometimes it's okay, I think, to be a little bit selfish and force the issue some. You don't want to get crazy. You don't want to take a bunch of bad shots. But I do think sometimes you got to get yourself going a little bit, but it's also a kind of a compounded effort. There was a great article that I read last week in the New York Post by Zach Braziller, who does a really good job covering St. John's. And he was writing about their do-it-all guard, Kadari Richmond, which Arkansas was on in the transfer portal, by the way. But he was like, he's a Swiss Army knife guy. I mean, scores it, assists, steals, rebounds. He's almost like Thero in terms of being a stat sheet stuffer, but he's really like a lead guard type of guy. And the title of the article was, "It's time for Kadari Richmond to start playing like the elite players St. John's needs." And the theme of the article I thought was spot on. He was saying, listen, Kadari's being a great teammate. He's busting his tail and making an impact defensively. He's rebounding well at his position. He's not jacking up shots. He's not stepping on anybody's toes. And with the understanding that everybody settles in at their own rate, but some players are just built to be the guy. And that's the case with Kadari Richmond at St. John's. And I think that's the case with Johnell Davis at Arkansas. I feel like I could write the exact same article for him. He needs to emerge. He does. And I'm confident that he's going to start to settle in. But given the early returns, I think there needs to be an emphasis placed on it from him, from the staff, from his teammates, to just get him going, right? Just get him going. Get him comfortable, because the best version of Arkansas includes the best version of Johnell Davis. And the sooner that happens, the better, because the competition is getting ready to uptick here really, really quick. And you would like him to be settled in and kind of firing on all cylinders before Arkansas faces that 3 out of 4 game gauntlet with Illinois and at Miami and against Michigan. And obviously SEC play is right around the corner. So it's something I'm going to have a very close eye on to see what kind of tweaks they make in terms of getting him more involved, what he looks like in terms of his comfortability. We'll keep an eye on that wrist. Somebody said he was shaking it a little bit. Maybe it was bothering him. The only thing about it is on one hand, you'd like to say, hey, if it's bothering him, let's just rest it, get him healed up or whatever. But he's a warrior and he's got to be out there playing, man, because Arkansas is short on numbers. And right now, you got to have him out there on the floor. So how are they going to balance that between getting him heated up a little bit? We'll see. But appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, it's been Curtis Wilkerson, the Inside Arkansas on the Pod at the Palace. We'll be back tomorrow where we're going to talk about my man, Adu Thero, and just the run of terror he's on against the competition. He's doing a great job. We'll see you guys in the morning.